Coming up on today's episode.
Agent said to him, you can definitely afford this property. I know, you've definitely been in a great shot. And then after the agent's like, I'm as shocked as you are.
Yeah.
Can't believe it's over that. And then they go tell their buyer, I thought it would go for that level. Well done, good buying.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
It's all smoke and mirrors sometimes. Dodgy advice and bad decisions can cost you big in real estate. We're here to make sure that doesn't happen. Welcome to the No BS Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Jo Agresta, and it's time to take control of your property journey together.
Chris Clarke here from Clarke Buyers Agent. Really looking forward to today's recording with the No BS Real Estate Podcast, talking about how you buy in Sydney, but not just how you do it, but what you need to do, because it seems crazy, some of the things we talk about, but actually we're just talking about facts about how to buy.
Welcome back, everyone, to the No BS Real Estate Podcast, your listening how-to guide to the Aussie finance and real estate market. I'm your host, Jo Agresta. Now, on today's episode, we're talking about buying in New South Wales and why so many buyers get caught out when they don't understand how the process actually works. Because buying property isn't just about finding the right home, it's also about knowing what needs to happen before you make an offer, before you bid at auction, and before you get emotionally attached to a property you may not actually be ready to secure. And to help us break it down, I'm joined by Chris Clarke from Clarke Buyers Agents. Chris is a buyer's agent working with clients across New South Wales market, helping them navigate the pressure, process and pace of buying properties. So without further ado, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Jo. Thanks for having me. Exciting to be here.
I'm so excited to have you here. We've been having a chat right before you jumped on. I've forgotten to print out my questions. You're like, here, I've got a copy. And I'm like, yeah, cool. That's really disorganised of me. I love that.
Looks good. Nice professional. We work together as a team.
I think so. I think we're going to make this work. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I'm actually so glad you're here because we're in New South Wales, sitting right out here at Seaforth in the caravan. We've towed it all the way from Victoria. And what I'm really keen to actually discuss, because it hasn't been talked about on the show before, is the market in Sydney. So, we've got market stuff, but we're also talking about the process. And I think when we caught up in our pre-podcast chat, you just explained it in such a way that I'm like, yeah, just stop talking, just save it for the podcast. We're going to talk about it. No, but truly. So I'm really excited to break it down today. And let's, before we get into, I guess, the buying process, I want to start with, what you're seeing on the ground, right? Because we're in this market, we're in Sydney. From where you sit, what are you seeing from buyers right now? And what's the general mood, would you say, of the market?
At the moment, there are obviously rates are going up, right? That's going to be the story of 2026. Within Sydney, and I think most across the nation, investors are going to take a pause, rethink things out. My thoughts are there's initially a bump, a bit of a speed bump. And then what then happens is everybody who needed to buy in 2026 needs to buy. If they need that third bedroom, if they needed to downsize, need to upsize. And we're already starting to see that sort of recovery here in Sydney. So the momentary 2 months of rates, I can't afford it, to this is now normal and I need to get on with my life. So starting to see a bit more of a steady approach coming through. The change is going to be on the seller side. So at that initial point, a lot of people had made decisions to sell on the basis maybe they'd purchased, done other factors. So there's some really good buying opportunities right at that point. So obviously as a buyer's agent, we're looking at the time right for our clients. Now it's getting to a point that sellers are only going to be really selling on the right basis. Not saying they're going to expect the highest price ever, but it's not going to be like it was during that initial phase of, I've made decisions, I just need to sell.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting summary because there's so much happening at the moment, and depending on who you talk to, especially the Vic market, everyone's like, look, buyers are cooling off. There's not many people out there that are avidly buying. This is from the buyer's agents, but then you talk to the brokers and they're like, I'm writing pre-approvals left and right.
Having the same conversations here as well.
Which is crazy. So it's good to get your view on it because you're on the ground, your boots on the ground. So I love getting that update from you. And I guess, who are you seeing that is most active? Would you say that it's the investor side or is it the owner-occupiers that are a little bit more active, or what's kind of been the sentiment?
Look, overall in Sydney, investors are not prolific as other areas, right?
Yeah.
Look at it logically. There's always Perth's been a hotspot, Brisbane's been a hotspot, maybe Melbourne's going to be the next hotspot. I think everyone's really talking about that. Sydney's more an investor scenario when it makes sense. We're the developer, so looking to buy a big block, knock it down, do the old splitter, whatever it's going to look like, duplex or something like that, split titles. Or the investors we typically see, or I myself typically see, investors with kids. So they've got the 2-year-old, the 7-year-old, the 13-year-old, and looking to buy an apartment, so that 211, that their kids can then live in maybe during university, maybe during the early stage of adult life,
Wow.
rent off them. Some of them even talk about then transferring that to the kids.
Jeez.
It's actually about half of my investor clients. That's the bread and butter. And that's why they don't buy in Brisbane or Melbourne, because it's not a capital, growth scenario. It's not really rental yield. Yes, it's about that, but it's actually about my kids can't get in now. How are they going to get in 10 years?
Yeah.
Instead of buying that property elsewhere, maybe it makes the most strategic sense like I said, from an investment standpoint. I'll compromise a bit, get something that's maybe 1 or 2 suburbs over my kids can live in, and I know where they're going to be, and I get that comfort of they're not going to move to Melbourne or Brisbane where I've got to travel a flight away, and the grandkids in the future are too far away.
I actually love that as a concept that's the majority, because, I'm hearing this more and more. People wanting to generate financial freedom when they're, I think, that mid-20s to 30s. Like, they don't have kids yet, so they're more thinking about their own financial position.
Correct. Yep.
And then above that 35 and 40s, they're all thinking about how the hell are my kids going to do this?
It changes, right? The mentality changes from when you're young to be investor. Let's a bit more risk to how do I make this work with my family or the next 10, 20 years for the overall.
100%. And I love that's what's in the market at the moment, or that's a conversation that's happening, because I think a lot of our parents or previous generations have done something similar in a different way, but now there's much more access to professionals that can actually help you get there, like yourself. That back then they wouldn't have probably used a buyer's advocate. They wouldn't have had all the data we have access to. It would have been very much whatever the real estate agent said.
Pretty much. A bit more trust, right? Back then, maybe, and blind trust. And this day, with the amount of data that's available, it can almost be too scary. Yes, it's easy to access that data.
Yeah.
And then buyers agents do a great job of describing all the different elements we do. And when you pair that up of the due diligence, the finding, the negotiations, the post-market, the contract, all these things together, I think overall people go, wow, there's actually so much to do as a parent for my children. I'm actually not going to just be guarantor and help them look at a few properties. I'm actually going to encourage them to get a buyer's agent or get a professional involved, because it does seem like there's so much. And it's a risk, right? I love your comment. It's not a first home, it's a starter home.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are looking at their buying for their kids or what are they going to do in the future going, well, this is not forever, but they need to get that starter home right.
Correct. And I'm very passionate about that statement, because
I love it.
I feel like it gives too much pressure. When you say first home.
I use it now with my clients.
Oh, good.
It immediately breaks. They go, as soon as I take it, this is not your first home, starter home, they go, you're right.
Yeah.
And it straight away resonates when they go, this is not the be-all, and I like the way you say it. It's not the be-all and end-all. It's definitely important. It's a foundation piece. But it's not. But first home really does put that pressure mentality.
Well, it's like you're picturing oh my God, my kids are going to grow up here. I'm going to be here for 10 years. All of a sudden, all this stuff that is not on your radar is stacking up, and the pressure to find that first home. Oh, it's totally frustrates me. That's why I love that you're using it, and I love that your clients love it. So I'm very happy about that. Good shit.
That's good shit.
So I think the next thing I'll have to do for today, before we go too far, is our no BS statement of the day. So if you're new around here, we always say a bit of a saucy statement at the start of our show, and then by the end, we're going to make Chris determine whether that's bullshit or not. So I'm going to read out today's statement, and it's, if you're not prepared to buy unconditionally, you're not really in the market. It sounds a bit intense, but look, on one hand, buyers want to feel protected. They want conditions, they want time, flexibility, and a chance to think everything through. But on the other hand, in a competitive market, you don't always get that luxury. So we'll come back later in the episode.
I like it.
And we'll determine if it's bullshit or not. Chris, best place to kick off would be your background, before we go deep down into the process. You didn't start your career as a buyer's agent, though. I mean, this is what I love. And I think it's important because everyone brings a different taste to how they approach purchasing. So take us back. What were you doing before you became a buyer's agent, and how did that eventually lead into property?
Yeah, good question. So obviously buying and selling property myself on my own, always been there, always been interested. But my career itself was in recruitment. So I worked Michael Page or Page Group, one of the bigger recruitment firms globally. Started in Melbourne, they moved me to Sydney, they then moved me to Singapore, moved me back to Sydney. And that was all about team and growing team and obviously recruitment and people. At the end of that time, I was looking for something else, another challenge, a new thing. And I thought about being a sort of buyer and real estate agent, but thought this is going to be too hard market. I'm very, very fortunate. My brother Simon, I think from a future podcast with you as well, in Brisbane, had already become a buyer's agent 4 or 5 years before me. And he's like, probably can do this. And the thing that's frightening for me, or the thing that I think made the most sense, is how eerily similar recruitment is to buyer's agent work.
That's interesting. Talk me through that.
So obviously big differences. Instead of me finding people, I'm finding hot properties, right? But the other elements that are the same is somebody walks in, I have an interview with them. They're looking for a certain job, certain potential, certain career path, salary, location. They're going to tell me about their family, their kids, work-life balance elements. When someone comes in as looking for a property, they're looking for a location, they've got a budget, they're telling me about their family, they're talking about their aspirations. So there was a whole bunch of stuff that I was almost like
you got a blueprint.
Extremely confident in, right? That part. The property side of things was new.
Yeah.
Right? So I was able to come in and go, I can do these parts for you. And that's why initially I was working with my brother Simon to go guidance from him about how to do it, make sure. Because the one thing I wanted to really make sure at the same time was not only be like ethical and upstanding, but didn't want the first client or, anyone have a subpar performance. So he was basically across every client for the first dozen or so, really in detail. Some of the clients, knew that he was part of it. And sometimes I was more or less calling him going,
on the background,
this is going on. Like, what do I do? To a point now that's, long since parted. We still speak regularly. But that's sort of the eerily similar background.
I love that because with people, like you said, it would be similar. Like, when you're looking for a job, you've got all those requirements. It's very similar to a buyer brief. It's almost like you had all the blueprint of how to ask those questions to pull the information out. So you would have been really well trained on the people side to find them and match requirements to what they're asking for. So there's a lot of overlap, which is cool.
Worked out beautifully.
And Simon's such a nice bloke. He's, he is going to come on the show with us, and I've been talking to him, and I can't believe that you're both buyers agents. I just love that.
I think I joked with you previously that, mate. We have another brother in Geelong. We've tried to
recruit
him in to go with his East Coast Clarke Buyers sort of stream, but he's a teacher and loves it. So that's we're all teachers actually. Originally, all three of us were teachers.
I was going to say, you were a teacher.
Buyers agents.
Funnily enough, our social media person today, Maria, who's also my mum, she's an ex-teacher of 30 years.
Beautiful.
So she's quit to do this.
I was a teacher about 3 months. Quite the same thing.
And I guess, coming from a background where you're working with people, process teams, how has that kind of now shaped some of the processes that you've introduced? Because I'd imagine you've got a pretty solid recruiting process.
Yeah. So
I say recruiting in the sense of buyers coming in and working with you.
Yeah, so attracting and so forth. So the thing that I got a lot out of, I was part of a global firm, right? So there was every process and procedure. And actually, the longer I was there, the more it came.
Yep.
Right, when we first joined, there actually wasn't even an internal HR team. By the time there was a global HR, process management, everything mapped out, probably to the nth degree. So a point that is almost red tape and bureaucracy and things slowing you down.
Yeah.
Most of that for good reasons, but maybe not all. But going through that, when I started, what I'm doing is really thinking about not only from a license and compliance standpoint of having processes in check, but also going, well, how does it work with each client to map out that beginning point of attracting, having attraction and having a consult with them, and then all the way through to buying a property. So done a lot of work doing that. Every time I feel like I've mapped it out, I strip it back and restart again, strip it back. And part of that is, and you know this very well, new software, new systems, AIs come in. So there's things that you're like, well, that's great, but how do I fit into my current process? Actually, to fit that in, I may need to make some tweaks and changes. And then even I've just gone through a big, the last 6 weeks, just re-stripped out everything again. And I thought I had everything perfect. You're sort of proud of it, of course, really proud of it. And now I'm even more proud of where it's got to. But if I look back, what was I doing? There's two or three things that nothing major wrong.
No,
but just positioning points. I'm like, why was I positioning that way? Okay,
I've literally just gone through the same thing, and I'm like, the penny dropped, and I'm always thinking, why was this the positioning? Why did I do it this way?
Yeah, why was I highlighting?
And I was so proud of it.
Yeah, and you look back and it makes sense, right? So, but then you think, I think where I've got to is more, instead of talking about what I do, more the benefits.
Correct. Yeah, the value.
I think that was probably the difference. Yeah, the value. Right? Yeah. So instead of saying, I do this and I do this and I do this, and logically that means I'm going to do a lot for you. Now it's like the benefit of working with you, these are the things I actually do to do it, but these are the benefits of it. And that just, I think, feels a lot more comfortable for people to engage with.
Yeah, it's like when you see a list of features and then you see the benefits of those features, and that's more attractive than the feature itself.
Yeah.
So I like that. And, let's, I guess, get into your buying experience, because you've got an interesting story. So I wanted to touch on that. And I think because those personal lessons one, inform like how you kind of help your customers, right? But also how you work, like how they're going to be working with you in future, like they understand a different part of yourself. So you mentioned when we first spoke that the first property experience was a big, big learning curve. Can you please share that first experience with us?
Yeah, I can.
If you want to, if it's not, I got the tissues out for this reason.
You did. I noticed. I appreciate that. No. Look, I do share with not all clients, but when it's appropriate, bring it up. So first property, this area, 35 kilometres out of Melbourne, Sunbury. First home owners grant was a big thing. Buying a new property was a big thing. I was outside the radius of where you got a bit. I think we got like 24 grand instead of like 7 or 14 or whatever it was. So it was quite sizable.
Yeah.
Built, a 4-bedroom home on a small block. Should have built a 3-bedroom and allowed for a backyard, but you're getting tired. But you just bolt this on and this on, and 4-bedroom, it's going to. In my novice view, 25 years ago, 4-bedroom means more money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now I look back and now I definitely look and go, well, living in a 4-bedroom property in Sunbury where people want a backyard, and we just completely just ripped out. There was no backyard. Secondly, all the problems with the home and land package, I saw it all. So after build not done correctly, we had cracks, we had concrete, we had issues all through it. Jeez. It was 5 years of pain, literally. We had eventually had tenants in there. That was when I moved to Sydney. So we had tenants there. The garage door stopped working. Why? Because the walls had moved and the garage door no longer was basically squished in. So we had to get it all redone. And you're doing all that remotely. So that's sleepless nights.
Yeah.
We do with that, you have a lovely 7-year or whatever it is, 7.5-year building warranty. But the person managing it, every time we called, every 6 months was a different person managing it. And we had to go back through the whole who we are, what's happened previously, and you're doing all that remote.
It's a nightmare.
To the point that sold it basically not for a profit, basically sold it for break even once we looked at stamp duty and interest we paid during that time. The day I sold was one of the happiest days of my life.
I can imagine.
Because it was relief. It wasn't like, financially a windfall. It wasn't. Obviously, the mortgage, didn't have to pay the mortgage. That was good. But it was just like, okay, I can go to sleep now. And it was also part of having, and when you have tenants, lovely family, kids, dog, they were super nice the whole way through. But I just felt bad going, you got a beautiful new home you're living in and the garage door doesn't work.
Yeah, I can't believe that's a thing.
Yeah, so it was a horrible time, and something I use for when I speak to clients. Going, I wish I'd used a buyer's agent. I wish there was it was a thing, but not really a thing.
Yeah.
You had parents.
Yep.
I think the challenge with parents is parents aren't always great with giving critical. And kids are also probably less accepting of critical.
Correct.
You don't know. And I was a bit like that. You don't know. I know better.
Yeah.
And if you have a buyer's agent who's a paid professional who actually gets it all, I think you're going to listen. If you engage like a real estate agent, you're going to listen to them way more and put some weight into what they're saying. And I look back now going, there's no way I should have purchased that property. There was so many amber, maybe red flags.
Yeah.
But novice view.
You can't help it.
And the first time, we said before, it was my first time. Need to get in, look at the capital growth. And the marketing I received then, it was buy the first one, move in, rent it out, then buy, plan was to buy 10. You're like, oh, yeah, of course. Right.
It's kind of what they do with like cars. They go, you buy this one, but then in 2 years you trade it in and you get another one and you get another one. And then that sounds appeling at the time. Like, I can have a new car every 2 years. And I'm telling you, they sold me that story for my Ford Falcon, 2012 Ford Falcon. I still have it.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a great car.
2 years is a long, you just stretch that 2 years out.
Yeah, I like 13.
That's fine.
All good. But it's so, so true. And thank you for sharing that and being so, open with it, because I think every advocate out there, that I've spoken to, has this story. Yeah. They have this story where their first purchase or one of their early purchases was a shit show for many different reasons, whether it was returns or experience with the professionals. Yeah. And it's turned them into advocates going, I'm not doing this shit for anyone else.
Yeah, I'm not having this. I'm not having that as a result.
Correct.
And I'm sure most people speaking with you will be saying something. I'm very happy to say no to a client. So the weird thing we have in Sydney is our clients can't help themselves. Maybe this is everywhere, but they really can't help themselves sending us properties.
No, that's everywhere.
Right? Yes, that's everywhere. And there are times they send them to us and they've already physically inspected them. And I love it, Chris. You won't believe it. And I go, wait a second, didn't you want a 3-bedroom? Yeah. Well, one of those bedrooms L-shaped. and you've got a 2-year-old and 4-year-old, so that's going to work for the next 4 or 5 years. When they're 10, let's not buy it. Without that other voice, like the particular I'm thinking of, she literally said to me when we purchased another property 3 months later, I think about 3 months, she's like, thank God I've been sleeping so soundly for 3 months because you told me not to buy that property because I knew that I would have purchased without you. And then during that settlement phase, I would have been like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, so the reality would have set in. And it's true.
He's locked.
You just need at that non-biased voice to say, you said this. If it's changed, cool. But if it hasn't, then what are you doing?
Yeah. Let's reassess and it's about that, again, the element of repeat clients and business where it's come from. If you do the right thing by them, that's why part of the reason I'm happy to say no is one, they have a good purchase. So then they tell their friends and family, and they show them, oh my God, how'd you do this? Oh, we got it with Chris. And also they can then tell the story. Yeah, and he told us not to buy this piece of junk around the corner.
Yeah, and then they'll come back to you, and that's how word of mouth gets out. So, and I love that. No, I'm really glad you shared that. So thank you for doing that. And I think, now that we kind of understand your background, let's talk about, who you're helping in the market today, because I think a lot of people have an old school idea of what a first home buyer or investor looks like. It's a very different image. What you're seeing sounds a little bit different. You kind of described it earlier as like the ones that are looking out for their kids, their future kids. That's like the majority of your base.
In the investment space, yeah.
And the investment space.
That's a very small, I tell you, relatively small part. So that's the investor. So about 10, 20% of what I do is investor, and that would look like that. Yeah. 80% are, owner-occupier, buying for themselves, buying their own property. Within that, I'd say about half of them are first-time starter homes.
Starter buyers.
Starter buyers. The unique thing with them, and this is probably nationally, but I think specifically, it's so hard to get in $1.7 million in the median house price that people are coming in, their starter home, when they're buying, they're not 21.
No, they're not.
And they're not 27. I've had quite a few that are 40, 45, and they've received some inheritance. Quite often that's the kicker point. Like their grandparents passed away and they've got some inheritance. And like, right, we're out there looking. And for them, they do look at it. I know we talk about starter home. They can have a mindset, well, I'm this age. This could be my forever home.
Oh, that's true. You've got the opposite.
We break it down there. I'm like, it's probably not going to be, because once you get in, you then have equity over time. You'll then be able to do something else. But it might only be buying when you're 40, 45. You might only buy 2 or 3 properties.
Yep.
In your time. Go through that cycle. Rather than, my parents went through every 7 years, 10 years, buy a property, sell a property, buy a property, sell a property. So buying for them in terms of their families, 2 income earners in Sydney, they've got typically got some finance inheritance or still have some sort of mum and dad help, which can be complications because
of course
bank of mum and dad comes with strings and conditions, and there could be 2 mum and dads on the inside.
Always.
And they could be separated. So you could actually have 8 sort of couples, 8 sort of parents.
Everyone helping out.
Getting there. Yes, that's roughly, I think.
No, it's true. And I think what's interesting to that too, more to your point, with the investor clients, I guess their motivation, like you said, is coming from the kids and the setup and that next phase of their life. And they're looking different, or even those first-time investors, first-time buyer, homeowners. It's taking a different shape. I think first-time buyers, like when I was buying about 15, what was I, 15 years ago, 10 years ago? I think my first property was around 10 years ago. And I bought that with my stepdad, and we bought it together. It was a block of land, and we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what we wanted to do with it. We just knew that we bought a block of land. Opportunity off the plan. It's like, looking back, I'm like, there's so many things maybe that didn't work out. But it worked out in COVID when I met my partner, and her and I wanted to buy together. And I said, do you want to build? And she's like, yeah, all right. And then we had an asset, like just a block of land that in COVID sold for way more than it should have.
Oh, wow.
And it was a crap block.
Sure,
no offense.
Sure.
it was like, I'm talking to him right now. So no offense.
He didn't buy it though, so it's okay. He sold it with you, so he's happy with that.
Well, it was like 297 metres squared, and it was long. The frontage was 11.5 metres.
That's big for Sydney, but sure, go on.
Yeah.
I understand it's relative to each area.
Relative, right? But depth was ridiculous. And I just said, it's long and skinny. And I remember I said to my partner, we could buy it off Phil and just build here. And when she saw it, she goes, can you just show me like a visual of what a house like that would look like? And I found one on the market. I said, we can go to the inspection. She just said, I feel depressed.
Did she go to the inspection?
No.
I was good. Looked at it and went, no.
She said, please don't. This is just not good.
Do you want us to be together longer term?
Yeah.
Well, what are you trying to do here? Because I'm out of here.
She's like, I feel depressed. I said, okay, fair enough. I said, we'll sell it.
We sell it.
I said,
you sold it for a good price.
We did. We
Great
got
job.
a great price. And then we got to buy our starter home and overcapitalized, got all the upgrades, got excited. I was like totally not the right person to be buying that house. But
You're your worst luck. You're your own worst client. Is that what you're saying?
correct, because you know what? That experience helped me start the podcast.
Yeah, right.
I got really pissed off. I was like, you know what? In my infinite wisdom, I've been a real estate agent. I understand all the people that are trying to screw me over. So I was on a mission and I'm like, I've been so played in this market so many times and I've been able to advocate for myself many times, but then the emotional side kicks in. I'm like, nah, we need a podcast where it tells people how to beware. It's like, how do you navigate this market? Because it's complicated and it's scary and people are committed to doing it. It's emotional. They're committed to doing it by themselves. They're a bit stubborn, not these days, but 5 years ago when the podcast first started, people weren't using an advocate. That was like less than 1% of the market. So I love how far advocacy has come. And now we're going to have that opposite problem of how do you work with a good advocate? So that's it.
How do you define that? How do you determine that?
Correct. And that's why I have them on the podcast. And I say this is a place that you can listen to where I know I'm going to be giving you good quality professionals. So let's crack in to today. How are we actually going to buy in New South Wales? This is interesting because this is where I think a lot of our listeners get real value. So because if someone hasn't bought in New South Wales before, the process can feel confusing, I think overwhelming. And that's with any state. But there's a lot of nuances in this market, and that's that what was it called?
66W.
66W. When Chris went through that with me, I'm like, oh no. Come and
Sounds
talk about
complicated.
it.
Again, there's one of those things that you listen to, you hear that 66W, it must be really complicated. It's actually really simple, but can bamboozle and stop people initially. Mm-hmm. Then they get their head around, but go on.
Yeah, exactly. So can you walk us through the actual process of buying in New South Wales, step by step, from finding the property all the way through to securing it, going to settlement in like the briefest format you can try?
Try the best I can.
Yeah, no pressure.
I'll try and skim over the parts that I think would be
obvious.
Obviously, finance. Probably a couple of things you want to get is before you even start looking, get a conveyancer, have someone you have a discussion with, work out their price and get a recommendation for somebody. I know other states such as Brisbane, it's virtually not needed because there's so little you can change within a contract. And even here, there's so little you can potentially change, but the contracts are 60 to 70 pages. Damn. You need an experienced person there to go, I know what's in there and know what's not in there. So having those in your back pocket, and depending on what you're buying, if you're buying a standalone, without strata property, I'd be having that discussion with a building inspector before you even start looking, which sounds crazy, but if you have them in your back pocket, they'll give you pricing. If you find a property and then you find one, you might get pricing that's a bit higher, and also then you might be just subject to who's available on that day versus you can get somebody who you're like, I trust you, Terry, when I call you. And Terry, when you call Terry in 6 weeks' time, Terry's like, I'm expecting that call. Yeah. So go through, you do your typical things. So you're going to do your inspection, right? And you're going to hear from the real estate agent how the beautiful property is and
the emotions,
the emotions and the comparable sales. One of the things to rip off like a Band-Aid. Now, I buy in New South Wales, but I specifically buy in Sydney, and you'll see this in the press very often. Guide prices don't mean too much. Mm-hmm. I know that's similar, I think, in Melbourne.
Yeah.
Not everywhere's like, but I know Melbourne's so similar. So you need to add on 5, 10, 20%, even sometimes even more than that. Really hard for a novice buyer to go, well, on this one, am I adding 5%, 20%? Like which agent? Whereas for us in the industry, like I know that agent or we know that property and we can do a due diligence and we can have some confidence of where the pricing is likely to fall.
Correct. I think that's an interesting point you bring up though, because I know from the price guide in Victoria, like they've tried to make that a law, especially with the auctions now. They've made it a thing that you have to change a week before your auction. You got to issue the reserve, basically.
Which I find insane.
It doesn't.
Is it happening now? Is it already happening?
Yeah, it's already happening. And the guide changes a week before the auction. And a lot of buyers are still not aware of it. So what they're going is, well, hang on, they advertised this house at this price bracket. Now it's changed. I go to auctions.
They had a guide price. Now do they then register with a reserve price?
Yeah, correct. So it's like they give a reserve guide. So the reserve's got to be in it. So what happens is they'll put it on market for this inflated price, and then wherever it actually sits, if that's higher or lower, they adjust it. And where I'm annoyed when I'm talking to the buyers at auction, because I go to auctions for content and I'm like,
beautiful.
having a chat. One I went to, this lady just said, I don't even know why the price changed. Like, I wasted my time. I've paid for a building and pest. Like, I've done all this due diligence and the new guide doesn't make sense for me. And I've gone, yeah, this is exactly where I think
the confusion comes in. I imagine there's also people probably see the reserve price and go, almost in their brain go, well, that's the purchase price.
That's
maybe?
right. That's exactly right. So then they're going there with this preconceived idea. So that's
where
why
it's going to go. Do you then find, would buyers agents look at that and go advantageously, while this is all sort of a bit of muddle, some pre-auction offers are more happening more because of that?
Correct. Yeah. So then the advocates are able to use that to their advantage. But then when you look at it from just a home buyer, they're so confused. They're so confused. And this is where I'm like, the agents are all saying, I don't like auction. Like, what's the point of auction anymore? And it's like, yeah, I think that's something that they're trying to get rid of, in my opinion.
So once you inspect, you're happy with the property, you obtain your own building report, ideally your own one.
Yeah.
Going to go through that. Effectively, you're doing a few things concurrently. Again, this won't surprise you, but you're getting the contract reviewed. You're doing the due diligence of the property. From my standpoint, like there's so much work around like a CMA, so that comparable market analysis. Yeah, we're doing it up until the second. And again, I'd say it's in most states, but again, I really know Sydney, there's a lot of sales that happen where prices are undisclosed. They get released later on. You and I would have access to some data portals where we can find that. Sometimes you can't, still not on those, but we've got that relationship with the agent, be able to call up and usually they'll tell us exactly where it went. Or they might be like, look, I'm really hamstrung, can't say. And you're like, okay, well, is it between 1.7 million and 1.75? Yes. Okay. Well, that's at least enough sort of fact finding in there for me to go, I can include that in my analysis of what I'm doing for my clients.
No, I was going to say, I still find it wild, like in that context, that you guys have undisclosed, because
so Melbourne doesn't have undisclosed.
Victoria, you've got to display a price for every listing now. It changed, and this was a couple of years back. So that's why when I look at other states,
every property gets listed with
everything.
Because I have a lot of clients who they don't want the price disclosed because I've had a few that are American.
Yeah.
Right. And they're spending $3 million in a property in Sydney, and they're like, I want to share the property with my friends over in America. But if they see I spent $3 million, they're going to think I'm filthy rich because our property over there is the similar one's like 500,000. So that's part of the reason we ask the price not to be disclosed is when they share with family and friends.
No.
But in Melbourne, just brutal.
Brutal. It's all displayed because it's for buyer beware. So there's no underquoting, overquoting.
Yeah, and I get it. I can definitely see from that standpoint, absolutely.
Yeah,
but then you also look at I'm sure those same people are very thankful for that. And when they buy, like, can I have it not disclosed?
Correct. Yeah, it's shit for the sellers, right? That do want it undisclosed.
Well, and the buyers, sometimes I'm sure buyers when they buy will go, it was really handy data. Yeah. And now I've purchased. Yeah, I don't want my friends and family to know.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I guess they're educated by that time to go, well, they're all undisclosed, so
yeah, and I think majority of Victorians when that came out was a big benefit because of the buyers, and then the sellers on the other hand were in the uproar position saying, well, I didn't want to, that doesn't help my sale. I've been doing, because we used to have like the make an offer as like the price guide. All that kind of crap. It was just
we still have a bit of that here.
But and that's what I'm saying. When I look at other states, I'm like, far out. Yeah, Victoria's really tightened up ship. Whereas
I think it's where there's obviously buyers agents who cover all over, and I go, I don't know how you do that.
Neither do I. Yeah,
it's not from a learning and ability standpoint, but I feel so aligned with how Sydney operates. I'm talking to my brother often, right, in Brisbane. There's cooling off periods all the time. They renegotiate because there's issues with the property. For me, that's almost like a foreign.
Yeah, constant.
So it's like you're on Mars and I'm on Venus. Like I just don't understand what's going on. I've done a few like that.
Yeah.
But it's probably like literally 3 or 4 versus he's probably done 3 or 4 that haven't had a cooling off period.
Can't believe that. Yeah, it's so
in
different.
Australia all saying we're meant to be the same, but.
No.
So, yeah, processes from there. And then you're getting the contract reviewed, you're getting everything lined, getting negotiation. And then it really just depends about how you're going forward. One thing, is the 66W, but I might just save. I think that's a later on question you might have.
Yeah, but
we can go now or either way.
I reckon go now, because 66W, I'm just going to look at the conversation's going. Cool. Let's go.
So what is a 66W? So basically all it is, what it means is it is saying you are waiving your cooling off period. Right? So I'm sure you have a similar form. You call it something else in Victoria? Or do you have a
Yeah, I think no, I don't even think we have a name for it. I think that's just a condition.
We haven't got a sexy sort of Star Wars name like we do, 66W.
No.
Just confuse like people. Now, what does it mean? So it's a piece of legislation or it's a section of the law. Basically means that your conveyancer or solicitor has instructed and informed you you're now buying this property with no cooling off period. They provide a letter. This is what I think is so bizarre because it's called 660W, which we all assume that means a form.
Yeah, correct.
Like you've got a penalty, you've driven, through speeding, you get a 660W as the penalty. But this letter, every conveyance solicitor can write different.
Oh,
It's capturing the same thing, but there's not a universal. They kind of all use the same language, but it's not universal.
Oh, so it's not like coming from like REIA.
No. There is a version in the contract that's like basically unexecuted unless you sign off on it.
Yep.
But what it also says is your conveyancer as the buyer has also verbally instructed you what's going on. So most solicitors, conveyancers aren't going to go, let's use the one in the contract because I've had the verbal discussion and let me send it through. But it can quite often where things fall over because what happens is that starter or that first home buyer or someone who's purchased outside of Sydney but buying in Sydney the first time, what's the average time of someone looking before they make an offer on a property?
Oh, it's at the moment sitting at 10.1 months. No, before they make an offer, it's sitting at around a month and a half.
Month and a half? Well, here it's definitely way longer. It's about 9 months in Sydney.
Oh, you're talking about making an offer or actually purchasing?
No, making an offer. Making an offer. It's
even
like
making an
9 months.
offer?
Yeah, on average.
Fuck.
Purchasing is about 18 months.
In here, in New South Wales?
Yeah, most people, on average. I've had a client 2 years ago, they were looking for 7 years.
No, they would have bought in such good markets back then.
Yeah, the funny thing was, this is a side tangent, their budget was about 800,000. We ended up buying an identical product what they would have purchased 7 years ago for 1.4. They had tears of joy. They literally cannot thank me. They've referred me so many people because they're not blaming me for the 7 years. They're so thankful that I stopped them off the merry-go-round.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So 7 years. Weird. I feel bad, and they're like, no, I feel great.
Oh my God.
So what typically happens though? So you're looking online, you finally inspect, you do due diligence, you're getting ready. And an agent says to you, put your offer in with a 66W. It's the first time you've heard it. And the agent, and people are like, what's a 66W? Oh, it's where you're just waving off your cooling off period. You're financing your building. And people are like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
First reaction is, I'm not doing that.
Oh, well, that makes sense now why you say it's longer before they make an offer. Because if that's the information they're getting.
Well, then what happens is, what typically happens, and this is verbatim, I can almost statistically pull that data, say it, is those people don't buy that property because they go, that's bizarre. I'm not doing that. That's stupid. Call their parents. Parents go, that's ridiculous. Property sells with a 66W, right, with somebody else.
Yeah.
They then look at the next property. Agent says, have you got a 66W? Look at the next one. Have you got a 66W? All of a sudden they're like, wait a second. This is normal. We thought this agent was doing this as like a
dodge.
Just testing us. Yeah, dodgy. Yeah, great boy. But actually and I'm talking specifically, I'm not talking about New South Wales. It's about 5 to 7 kilometres from the CBD. So Seaforth, your Coogee, Clovelly, you're definitely not doing without that. Even into like Cogra, it's about 80% done that way. Inner West is prolific. And it's a cultural norm. It's not required from law, but it's a cultural norm for the agents. The agents almost say, if you give an offer without it, in maybe not in this market, things will change a little bit right now, but more often than not, the agent will go, got your offer of $1 million with a 66W. Person says no. Agent goes, I'm not even representing that to my vendor.
Wow.
I won't represent it because I'm going to tell them to continue to go to the auction. I'm going to continue going through the process. I'll only present it with a 66W. And so people are like, what?
Yeah, well, it's like it's going to force your hand. Like,
yeah, of course.
How bad do you want
it? Well, it does force your hand how bad you want it, but also it's the normality. Like the agent's going, well, he and she, they're both offering a 66W. You're the only one not. You're the black sheep. You're the one out of here. I'm going to go with the white sheep. They're great.
They're all doing it.
They're doing what I've asked because so it's that road with less barriers. They've been able to get it normality. So it's like this is a social norm. This is a normal process. So we're just going to do it.
So then what happens with the due diligence side? Like when do you do the building and pest and then?
Great question. Yeah. So it has to be done up front. It has to be done prior to that point.
Yeah.
So that's the flip side, right? Instead of us doing after the purchase, we're doing all that beforehand. So we'll do the building inspection or strata review, all the CMA, physical inspections all before. Where I know in other locations, sometimes you'll go, I've seen the property once, put an offer in, we'll check it later on, we'll renegotiate. If there's an issue with the roof where you can pull out of it, or we can ask them to, it doesn't happen here. So you have to do it beforehand. Also on the finance side, if you've got, obviously most clients have mortgage, but some, lucky enough, they've got cash. But with the mortgage, what we do is as buyers agent, we become part of the ecosystem. So when I inspect a property and then the client goes, we like it because they don't like all property, they're like, yep, we like it. We're going to go inspect it. I sent it to the mortgage broker going, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Mortgage Broker, this is one of 13 Smith Street. We like it. I think it's going to take about $1.2 million to purchase it. We're not progressing forward right now, but FYI. So what does the mortgage broker do? Check the property.
Yep.
Right, going to do a dashboard. It's not perfect, but do a dashboard. And they're going to recheck their pay slips and everything, pre-approval, sit good. Quite often I do that without the clients know from the beginning of the process I'm doing that, but they don't involve them later on because I'm like, see no evil, hear no evil. When they go physically inspect the property, they come back and go, I like it. They're like, we've got to tell the mortgage broker. I'm like, don't worry. I've already told them.
Wow.
We haven't made an offer. So I'm not saying I'm not pushing their hand, but I'm like, I get the ducks in a row so that we're able to progress forward. So effectively what you do is you can then sign waiving your building inspection and waiving your finance because you've done it beforehand.
So that's the big thing he would do. And that happens regardless of auction because, like, just to contrast it, Victoria, that's always encouraged before auction because auction you are buying unconditionally.
Same as here. Yep.
Right, same as here. So everyone will do it when they know it's an auction. When it's private sale, no one's doing it. It's all subject to, right? And unless they've got an advocate on their side who says, look, you're going to have to make a small investment because, they're pretty convinced that this property is...
It's not a social... It's not a constructive norm of the...
Absolutely not. And they won't do it, right? So what they've introduced in Victoria, the Allen government's trying to bring in the next election is mandatory building and pest reports being provided at the sale point. So when...
I heard this.
Yeah. So, and now what I've got on the other end is the Victorian buyers advocates are saying, well, hang on, I actually think that's pretty shit because I don't know if I can trust whoever you did your building and pest through. So now
it's not like in the UK, right? Become a building inspector. It's a 4-year uni degree.
Yeah, no, not here.
No, I know, all over Australia.
Ex-tradie.
So at best. Whereas over there, it does make sense to have policies like that because it's actually it's like a value. There's qualifications have gone through to get to that point, so you can have some safe and security. Here, it's like it's a 6-week course.
Yep.
Off you go.
And whoever
it comes from the vendors and the agent have paid whoever one of the two or both together has paid for it.
Yeah.
And you as a buyer go, I've got to put all my trust. And so we have the same here. A lot of proproperties are listed with a building.
Really?
Yeah, a lot. And they give it to you for free or like a nominal fee, like $50. And sometimes they say when it goes the day of settlement, you will pay $350 to convert that over to your name. It's a forced, if you're the successful person. Some just give it to you for free. But you got to take it with a pinch of salt. Now, some of these building inspectors I know personally, I trust, I call, I use them myself.
Yeah.
Other ones I'm like, I've never heard of you before. And no disrespect, but I've never heard of you before. It's very hard for me to really
put your trust in it.
Yeah. And that's not slighting them. They're a good, they're a bad, right? But I've got to treat them more skeptical.
Correct.
And protect my buyer. So sometimes we then still do our own report. And sometimes the vendor can get annoyed because they're like, we did a report. We did our own report 2 weeks ago. We did another report for somebody else 3 days ago. And then we'll do another report. Yeah. Yeah, you do. And they can get a bit shitty because Sydney people are going to be a bit snooty.
It's the same with me.
Nice.
Not much different.
Good.
But it's interesting. So the due diligence piece has to be done up front in Sydney, really, like even if it's private, not just auctions. So I actually think that's a better way of buying, though. Like in my opinion, if you're very, very, very serious about a property, you should be investing with knowing that even if you don't get that property, you've done all the checks. Like if everything else stacks up.
It does. And you and I say that. I was talking to a potential client last night about a property and they haven't signed up, but they're like, okay, what about building reports? What are they? I said, it's between $400 and $600. We're going to pay that for every property? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, that's going to add up. And the thing I say to them as a buyer's agent, you'll probably only have to do 1 or 2 more because I'm only going to get you to do it. I'm going to kill off a whole bunch of properties that you can't afford anyway, a whole bunch of properties that aren't good enough anyway.
That's right.
So it will limit it, but yeah, you still have to pay it. But if you don't use a buyer's agent, these people can be doing 6, 7, 8. You're talking $3 or $4 grand, and you're a builder boy. You're like, well, I no longer need that.
And I think that
probably I didn't purchase.
And that's the thing. But what they don't realize is working with an advocate like yourself, like what you're doing effectively is the real estate search that they jump on and do themselves on REA, and they get 200 properties. Basically, you're the 200 property person, and you're narrowing it down to that like top 3 to 5 that are going to hit, that hit everything up until the inspection point and then obviously further due diligence. So it's like, how much of that time is worth saving to you? Like the late nights sitting there scrolling, that's worth something to you?
And that element around, let's say they find a property online, looks great. They spend 3 or 4 weeks going, they go to the auction and within the first 3 bids, it goes beyond their means. That's typically that's gut wrenching for them, of course, emotionally involved. We also find a lot of times buyers then stop looking for the next 2 or 3 weeks. Like they're burnt out.
Yep.
Agent said to him, you can definitely afford this property. I know. Oh, you've definitely been in a great shot. And then after the agent's like, I'm as shocked as you are.
Yeah.
Can't believe it sold for that. And then they go tell their buyer, I thought it would go for that. They were well done. Good buying.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Oh, it's all smoke and mirrors sometimes.
Like smoke and mirrors.
I call it the Wild West real estate because it's still a bit that way.
Yeah, it can still easily happen. And I get why they're having that. They're going to tell the buyer great buying and they're going to tell the person who missed out.
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm surprised, but I'll help you next time.
Yeah, it's softening the blow, right? They're not going to go, well, I knew it would go for that.
Right? They do. They are trying to soften the blow to some degree. So we shouldn't slide them too much all the way through.
Oh, not all the way through. Not all the way.
Just a little dick.
Just a little jab. Quick jab. It's like a jumper punch in footy.
Nice. I like it.
I think this is and this part of the show, normally I'd start going into what we call Reddit Real Talk, where I pull up a Reddit story that someone submitted to us and we unpack it. But for this episode, I think it would be more useful to hear from you directly because you've got people in the market, right? So you're seeing these situations play out with real buyers in real time. I want to take me through, what's a common situation where you see buyers miss out because they weren't properly prepared or organised or they didn't have all their stuff ready to go?
I think it's sort of unfortunate to some degree reiterates what we just said, right? So people going through a process, they've got their finance and everything organised, and that 66W or getting absolutely ready from a finance standpoint, they're just not ready for. And
that's probably the biggest one, isn't it? It's just that throws them off the whole journey and the whole course, on offer after offer with
Correct.
Trying to get away with not putting in this 6W in.
Yeah, it's completely unfair in terms of no one talks, like we're talking about it, but no one talks about it. So you're looking on REA, no one's talking about it. You go to the first inspection, no one's talking about it. You're talking to even mortgage brokers, they're not talking about it proactively because some of them mortgage brokers, if they're based in Sydney, around the area you're buying, like if it's your neighbourhood mortgage broker, they will be telling. But mortgage brokers, it can be anywhere, right? So if you're a mortgage broker based in Perth and you're buying in Sydney, not that they won't know, but they won't just think about, hey, by the way, where are you buying? Are you buying in Lilyfield? That's 66W territory, right? So that unknowingly going through that and then that burnout phase of then finishing. That's why, I talk about clients or buyers overall, the average purchase time is like 18 months because they go through, they get burnt to their stop. They go through, they get burnt to get stopped. And eventually they buy, and sometimes they buy for what they probably at the beginning of their phase, they feel like they were overpaying.
Yeah.
But by the time they've gone through all that burn, maybe the market's gone up by 2 or 3%, but also I just want to get off.
Yeah, they're done.
This carousel of pain.
Yeah.
And you think about the obvious things. You at a barbecue in the weekend, you're telling people buying a property. Catch up at Christmas. How'd you go buying? Still buying. It's that sheepish, still buying, still looking. And then someone's like, I thought the market went up by 3% since July.
Yeah.
How much are you buying? $1 million. That's $30,000 you've just lost. Thanks, John.
It's like when you get engaged and then everyone goes, when's the wedding? When's the wedding? When's the wedding? It's that pressure.
It's on.
And I guess, do you have a situation where buyers, you've seen, where are they getting it right? I guess in the process, is there an example you can share? Because I think this is hard, to answer. So, is there a right, when they have the right support around them or when they've got the right, if they're using an advocate, what's their advantage whether they're working with you or not? Where do you see them getting it correct in the process?
Look, I think if they put me aside, I put a buyer's agent aside, I think where they're getting it right is when they've actually got that support network behind them. So they've got a conveyancer, they actually chat and speak with and got a pricing already structured. They've got a building inspector already having a discussion. So these building inspectors, they'll be, if you call them on a Monday and say, can we have a coffee? They'll be happy to catch up with you.
Yeah, they will.
But if you
100%.
call them on Thursday, say, can you do an inspection tomorrow afternoon? You've never spoken before, they're less likely to be engaging or helping you out.
I think that's so true. They're much less likely to assist not much less likely. They're more likely to assist you if you've got the people in the right team, set up with you. And if you've got them at your fingertips, it just makes the process way easier.
Yeah, and also the element of what typically happens is people get to that point of buying and go, okay, we're at that point of buying, we need a building inspector. Agent says, we've already got a building report. You need a conveyancer? I can send you a conveyancer. It won't be the same conveyancer who's done the contract because obviously that's unethical and illegal, virtually illegal. But they're going to give you their other conveyancer who's going to do what for that agent. Even though they're not getting paid, they're getting an opportunity to work with a client from that agent.
It's spot
hopefully
on.
all, I'm sure, upstanding, but you go, well, are they 100% for me or are they 99% for me and 1% for somebody else? Regardless of that, you just want someone who's 100% backing on your side.
Yeah, well said too. And Chris, I can't believe how quick the time is going. Like I'm looking at it going, crap, we could have.
I do talk a bit.
No,
is that what you're saying? I feel like they're saying.
No, I'm saying that I talk a bit. And
I think we both do.
Yeah, I think we could talk forever. So I need to get to our rapid fire round. And I love this because I don't want you to think too much. I just want you to answer. All right. So first instinct. This is rapid fire. Let's go. 66W, necessary or avoidable?
Necessary.
Buying unconditionally, scary or standard?
Standard.
Waiting 6 months before making an offer, normal or a problem?
Crazy.
Stretching your budget, sometimes required or dangerous?
Sometimes required.
First home buyers, underprepared or unlucky?
Underprepared.
Biggest thing buyers focus on too much?
Oh, I didn't actually think about that. Biggest thing. Busy roads? Roads?
Well, as a hang-up.
As like, I don't want to be on a road. I don't want to be on a through road. So they absolutely like, yeah, that's what just came to mind when you asked me a question. So on the cuff, I'm like, a lot of time people are like, roads, I want to be off-road, off this. And like, that's your biggest thing you're focusing on in this purchase?
That's funny. All right. Good to know. I like it. It's rapid fire. This is the point. Biggest thing they don't focus enough on?
Comparable sales. Comparable sales. And actually walking through those properties, sitting with them, stewing on them. Yeah, don't do that.
I agree totally with that one.
It's quite a bit of a break, but sometimes the budget might be like 1 to 1.5, right? And they end up making a property offer on 1.4, but they've been seeing properties from 1 million to 1.5. So they're actually not that well educated about 1.4, what it's actually worth.
That's true.
Because they've spread themselves around. So they're actually not as educated as they need to be when they get to that point.
So their perception's off. It's like
it's not enough data points, not enough collection. Like it's like a data point. It's like up here and down here. It's like, well, then the two aren't that
matching up.
Related. Get the ones across your point.
I love it. And this last one word to describe the Sydney market right now.
Opportunistic.
Ooh, I like it.
Very opportunistic. You got to be in it now.
Why is that? Why is that on your side?
On the buyer side, right? So everything we're buying is good buying. It's buying prices we're buying now are like March, June of last year already, right? That's where the buyer's agent. I think the common buyer's probably not, no offense, doing it that well, but you're talking like 3, 5, 6% better off than what it was in February already. People, if you're pre-approved, even if you're not using a buyer's agent, what are you doing? Yep. Get in. Now, if you don't want to buy in Sydney, that's another conversation, another time, and it gets expensive. Everyone's going to hear me going, Chris, you're crazy. Buying in Sydney's stupid. But if you are buying in Sydney, now opportunistic, get in.
All right. I like that. That's probably our next one, next episode. And to wrap up, we have to, Chris, thank you so much. This has been so much fun today.
Yeah, I had a great fun.
I'm so glad.
More fun than I thought I'd have. I was nervous coming in.
I told you. I said, once we get going, we're going to have a ball. We have to come back to our no BS statement of the day. So just a reminder, the statement was, if you're not prepared to buy unconditionally, you're not really in the market. Now, after everything we've spoken about today, the process, the 66 buyer preparation and what separates successful buyers from those who miss out. I'm very interested to hear where you land. So, Chris, is that bullshit or not bullshit?
That is not bullshit.
And there we go. We stand up to
You knew I was going to say that.
I didn't actually.
But again, that comes back to, I want to reiterate, that's the 5, 7, 10 Ks from Sydney CBD. I'm not talking about New South Wales.
Yeah.
I'm talking in those areas you're buying. It's not bullshit.
It's not bullshit. I love it. And that always stands up. So thank you so much.
Pleasure.
And last question to you, Chris, is, this has been such a valuable chat. For anyone listening who's about to start searching or who is already looking and feeling overwhelmed, I want to leave them with something really practical. For someone listening right now who's about to start looking, what is the one thing they should do before they properly enter the market?
Yeah, really good question, and one I wish everyone did. Before you start, everyone looks at current listings on REA. Don't look at that. You can go to sold tab. You can drop down function of the last month or the last 3 months. Don't go further back than that. Put in your requirements. I'm looking for a house, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1 car park in Seaford. My budget's around here. Show me the properties I've sold in the last 3 months or 1 month in that level. Look at all those. people don't. For me, it's obvious.
It's comparable.
What they do is they look at the current listings where we know guide prices are BS. I'm like, oh, it's in the guide price in my budget. So they go look at it, not knowing it was never going to sell in the budget. So the proof's in the pudding. Look at the last 3 months, 1 month, what's sold. That will give you the best education. Please, everyone, do that. Please.
I love it.
Save yourself.
Great advice to end on. Chris, thank you so much again for being here today. I've really loved this episode and so much insight, so much fun. So thank you for coming on again.
Yeah, well, Jo, thank you very, very much for having me. I appreciate it. Thanks for making the trip up and good luck on the rest of the journey.
Oh, it'll be fun. Actually, it went pretty quick, so I'm very happy about that, funnily enough. I saw Gundagai. I went to Dog on a Tucker Box. I did Ned Kelly.
Dog on the Tucker Box. I've done it every time I go down. I always take a photo outside, every time.
Every time? Yeah.
Since I've been 2 or 3, I don't know.
I've said it. I said it probably 35 times on the way up, annoying my parents, going, we're going to stop at Dog on a Tucker Box, Dog on a Tucker Box. They're like, oh, if you keep saying it, we're not going to go. I feel like an idiot.
That's okay. Be an idiot.
I'll stop there before I embarrass myself because the key takeaway is buying well is not just about finding the property. It's really understanding the process before you're in it. And because, once the right property appears, things move so quickly. And that's not the moment where you want to be figuring out your finance, your legal advice, your risk tolerance, or what you're actually comfortable committing to. So before you start making offers this weekend, if you're in and around that Sydney CBD, like 15 kilometres out, make sure you are not just interested, make sure you're ready. And Chris, again, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your perspective. For anyone that wants to connect with Chris, his details are on screen and in the show notes below. And as always, if you've got value from today's episode, make sure you're subscribed, share it with a mate or someone who's trying to buy right now and wondering what a 66W is. And we will catch you in the next episode on the No BS Real Estate Podcast. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time. That's a wrap for this episode of the No BS Real Estate Podcast, powered by Abodi AI. If you found this conversation helpful, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone who might need it. If you're looking for more guidance on your home buying journey, you can visit www.abodi.com.au for expert advice, property insights, and the tools you need to find the right home with confidence. If you're already on your journey, you can also download our app. Just search Abodi AI on the App Store or Google Play. Have any questions or want to connect, you can follow us on Instagram at abodi.com.au or send us a message. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next episode.